Why, hello there, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And today, I'll be doing a very quick guide on how to mount a head onto a body for your custom Vrchat avatar. Now, I have a lot of people asking me how to do these things and whatnot, because um, a lot of people have a hard time with making their own avatars and stuff. So, you know, might as well do my part in making very easy guides for you guys, right? And I want people to make their own avatars because and more people can express themselves and people will be much happier, and that's what VR chat is all about, right? About expressing yourself, and making your own models is pretty much by far the way to do that, the best way. So this is my personal edit of the Torignon base, my femboy base and whatnot, and today we're going to put a head on it. So first things first is I want to clean it up a little bit. I want to delete anything that I'm not using, that I'm not going to use, like this head bone. And then I'm going to go in my folder. I'm going to import one of my heads that I have. And we'll use this head. Now this is normal. It tends to do this. Just gotta wait a little bit. There we go. I got like a cute little baby head now. So first things first, this is going to be a simple guide, right? But it's not going to be a guide on how to navigate your Blender. So I'm not going to teach you how to move your transforms or how to resize. I feel like you guys should already know that if you're looking up videos on how to mount a head onto your body, right? So first things first is we want to resize and move the head onto the body, right? Now, one of the main things people have newer people have problems with is sizing and rescaling the head. So a lot of the times your head will move up and down when you scale it up and whatnot. There is a simple fix for that, but first I want to mention that whenever you are scaling and resizing the head, that you don't do it clicking on the head mesh. Because if you click on the head mesh and you resize it, it moves it away from the armature. And what that's going to do is it's going to break your eye bones. And when your eye bones are broken, the rotation states won't be, good anymore. And, your eyes might be screwed in VRChat. So we want to make sure the eye bones are set to how the creator has intended for it, right? So want to make sure everything is set in place. So whenever we do move the head, we want to move it by the armature. So let's go ahead and move the head. Now, one of the common things that people do when they're sizing the head is that, they'll scale it down and be like, oh, now the head is down. And they move it back up. And like, oh, now the head's too small. And they move it back up. They move it back down. And then they're like on this constant struggle of scaling the head up and down because the head keeps moving and you can't really get a good gauge on what you want. So an easy way to fix that is set the origin, or you right click, set origin to geometry. So what that does is now the head and the bones will stay put, right? So usually I like looking at the body as a whole, and I usually like making a Western avatar, so the head's gonna be a little bit bigger, right? Not too big though, just enough to make it proportional. Like so. Maybe it can be a little smaller, a little too big. There you go. I think that'll do. A little bigger. Yeah. Alright, now we want to put the head onto the neck, right? Now I'm just gonna put the head up here for now because there's something I need to show you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at the weight paint for the head onto the neck. As you can see, we're on the head vertex group. So this red part right here is gonna follow the head. Red means sticky, blue means water. Okay, so whenever this head part moves, this part's gonna move more, move closer to the head bone, and this will move less towards the head bone, right? So now if we take a look at the weight paint for the head, take a look at the head, the entire head is weight painted red, except for the jawbone, which you can disregard that because the jaw is parented to the head anyways, right? So you don't have to, you can disregard all this weights right here. So if you look closely and you compare the two weights and whatnot, what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're placing a head that it's going to be somewhat close to the red weights on the neck. Because if it's not, what would happen is that if it's too low, Control Z, if it's too low, like down here, what would happen is pretty much when you move your neck, the neck would like cave or move in a certain way that's not like flush with the head. So you could get awkward clipping, awkward rotations, things like that. So if you're going to move the head further down, you have to look at the weight paint for the neck and then make sure to adjust the weights to how you want it, to where you want to put the head. But for now, we're going to use Torignane's weights that he put in for us. They're not that bad either. So they're actually really, really good. So we're gonna go ahead and put the head right here, and then we're gonna move it back a little bit like that. And that looks pretty good, right? Nice. Very nice. So now that we have our head placed and everything like that, now we can move on towards merging the armature, right? Now I know a lot of people, they like using cats for this. I don't like using cats for this. I like doing as many things as I can, depending less on cats. I still use cats for flipping normals and making mouth physemes and a whole bunch of other useful stuff. But whenever I'm merging armatures and stuff, really basic things like that, I prefer to do it by hand, because if anything fucks up, if cats fucks anything up, you're not gonna know how to fix it, because you're at a point right now where you're kind of new to this and you depend on cats for a lot of things, and when cats messes up, you're not gonna know how to fix it. But if you learn from the beginning on all the steps and how to do things, and something wrong happens, at least you can go back, retrace your steps, and find out what went wrong. With cats is a shortcut tool. You'll never be able to find out what you did wrong because you're using cats, right? So that's why I highly stress, if you are new, try doing everything and depend the least on cats as much as possible. Okay, that's what I do and whatnot. So let's go ahead and merge the head to the armature. So right now I'm just clicking on the armature, and then I'm control clicking the body armature. And a lot of mistakes people make is that they join it and the head mesh is still grouped together with the body. So when I join it, the head falls all the way down. And a lot of new people, what they'll do is they'll take the head and then they'll drag it up and they'd be like eyeball it to where they think was the proper place it was in last time. But that's not how you do it, okay? So what you have to do first is you have to take the head, and then you go to parent, you right click, parent, clear and keep transform. Now the head is outside the armature. When you go in to join the armatures and you press Control J, you pretty much, this right here, you pretty much did what cats did, but you did it by hand, right? And then if you want the head to be back inside the armature, you just click the head, control click the armature, Control P, object. Now everything's together again. Alright, so now that the two armatures are merged together, there's a couple more steps we have to do because, we're not using cats. So we're gonna actually have to take the armature back into edit mode, tab into edit mode. And when it collapse the hips, you're gonna find that head bone there, just sitting down there, not connected to anything, right? So what we have to do is we have to parent the head to the neck bone. So we have that head clicked, and we're gonna go into our hips, and then we're gonna look for the neck, right? I know the neck was already there, but just an example, open the hips, go through the spine, go through the chest, and then you find the neck. And there's not gonna be a head bone in there. So what we gotta do is you gotta control click the neck, control P, and I like to keep it offset. Because, if you connect it, you might screw up the weights on the eye bones. So I just keep mine offset and totally negates that risk of messing up your eye bones, right? Alright, so now that we've done that, now you have to go back to object mode, tab into object mode, you click your head, right? And then you go to this little green triangle. No, not the green triangle, I lied. You go to the blue wrench, and you're gonna see that the head mesh does no longer has an armature. So we want the head mesh to follow the rig, so we gotta have that armature modifier applied. So we click on armature, and now it's there again. And then we take it into pose mode. Now that we're in pose mode, you're going to see a very common mistake that people do. And this is why a lot of people think Tori base is so hard to work with, but because they're so new, they don't really understand, what's going on, because they probably rely on cats, or they don't really know much about weight paint. So when I move my head, the neck's not moving, right? You're like, what the heck's going on here? The neck's supposed to move, but it's not. So Torignan doesn't have conventional naming for his bones. Like the Western community, they usually have like all their stuff like uppercase and whatnot, and it's all like, Unity like standard for like naming or whatever, I don't know. Torignan has it a little different. So if we look at Torignan's body, and then we go to the vertex groups, you look at it, the hip, spine, chest, neck, and head are all in lowercase. But if we look at the head here, the head is uppercase. So what we have to do is, all we gotta do is we go to that bone, and then we rename it to head with a lowercase h, and then hit enter. So now when we take it into pose mode, it should follow like so. And you see how I accurately placed it on those weights right there, and it nicely follows the neck. So if I were to look around that part right there in that mesh, you will see no gaps, no matter how much stress I put on my avatar looking up. And that's why it's very important to put the head in the right spot or adjust your weight paint. Now, one of the main things I like about Tori base is that he did a very, very good job, a superb job on the weight painting on the neck. And that's because when I look down, my chin doesn't really clip with my neck. A lot of avatars have that problem where when they look down, their chin just clips with their neck and their chest, and it looks ugly in my opinion. But Torignan was able to fix that, and because he's a boss. So now when I look around, do like it kind of collapses a little bit, which is really great. So yeah, that's how you put a head onto a body. Not hard, very easy. Of course, there's still this gaping hole back here, but that's another video for another day. I just wanted to show you guys how to put a head on a body and how easy it is, and whatnot. And I really hope that start putting out more videos and whatnot to help a lot of people out, make their own avatars, start expressing themselves and whatnot. So I hope you guys find this useful. If you do, subscribe, leave a like, or join my Discord in the link below. And if you have any questions, you could always, ask in my Discord, questions and whatnot. And, I can help you with really basic stuff. Nothing advanced, only basic, like, you know, putting together your own avatar and whatnot, okay? I'm just doing really basic stuff. And that's it. And simple troubleshooting too. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my video, and I think that's everything. So I hope you guys have a wonderful new year. I have to get going now. Bye.